I'm delighted to be joined on the Alternative Show today by all three members of the French Tips. They're here to chat about the band and play us some songs. To start off with, can you tell us where you're based, who's in the band, and what everyone does in it?
So we're from Boise, Idaho, and we consist of Ivy Merrill, and she sings and plays bass and guitar as well. Then we have Angela Hylison, and she is a drummer, and she also plays bass as well and sings. And then my name is Rachel, and I am on guitar and bass, and I sing as well. We actually knew of each other. I knew of Ivy for a long time here in the Boise scene. She and I have played in a few different bands just over the last 10 or 15 years. So Angela and I actually played in a band previous to this one called Desert Graves, and that's how I met Angela. And Ivy actually had invited me to be a part of this cover project that she had been in for 10 years called Mostly Muff, and they did a lot of really cool covers through the different eras of music. And the really cool thing about that band is they would play annually and always with like a fundraiser for a positive social cause. So when I got invited to play in that band, I was really excited. And that was, I think, around the time that I was playing in Desert Graves as well. And Ivy came and she saw one of the shows that Angela and I were playing. I was playing, and she thought it would be really cool for us to put together a couple of songs for this like political event. So we played the Bush Tetras for one cover and Le Tigre for the other cover, and it was really, really fun. And then we didn't really do anything for a few months after that. I want to say that it was maybe 5 or 6 months. I can't remember how long exactly, but we just reconnected and we're like, hey, that was really cool. We need to keep rolling on this. So we did from that point on. And I think that that was in 2016. And we've just been kind of going strong ever since.
Who came up with the idea for the name of the band?
I have to say that Ivy is, she has award-winning ideas, and she just pulled that name out. She's like, you know what, I think if I was wanted to be in a band called the French Tips, and Angela and I just looked at each other and were like, okay.
From their brand new album, All the Rage, this is the French Tips with Shade. Do you follow any particular songwriting process in the band?
I think just really going back to how collaborative it is. I don't think that most of the time we have like anything fully developed until we get together and write it. You know, so Ivy is the one that really keeps us on track it's really incredible working with her because if we had a band of three of me, we would just stick on the same riff for probably 2 or 3 hours and go into a rabbit hole that doesn't turn into anything, and Ivy has this really great structure where we'll play through a song a couple of times and then she'll be like, okay, we need to move on. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
And, so we stay very organized in that way and productive, which I really appreciate.
Do your songs have any consistent or preferred lyrical themes?
It seems like there's a few songs on this latest album that talk about like parting ways, maybe a breakup, ending relationships that are toxic. Just more of that like individual liberation or like that freedom from constraining relationships.
Yeah.
And then there's some like darker, more personal themes I think that we have on this album. I think there's always a little bit of rage, but it would be interesting actually to go back and listen to our first album and the second album, maybe consecutively,
Yeah.
just to see if there are more themes that are not coming to mind for me right now.
You've recorded an album that's just been released. It's called All the Rage. Can you tell us how it came to be called that and what we can expect to hear on it?
So I think that was a name that came up early on in the recording process. All the Rage just seemed like a really fitting way of describing that mood, but also is a really good fit for us and how we shape our sound.
You recorded the album in Boise at Rabbit Brush Studios. Why did you choose to record it there?
Our friend Zach Von House, he operates that studio, and he's recorded other bands we've been involved in, lots of friends' bands, just a lot of folks in town, and we just really loved his method and his style of his recording process, because it's just like this little, he like made this makeshift recording studio in like his shed in the back, and then like all of his setup is like in his house in the basement. It's like actually really cool. And he's just this really incredible, intelligent engineer who's always excited about learning new things and trying new things, especially with us and our recordings, and just really love that. And then just like on a personal level, he's just a kind human. He has like a wonderful way of interacting with each of us and kind of meeting us where we're at and what we're comfortable with when we're like in the studio individually, when we're like really screwing something up and can't figure something out. He's just like really supportive and, gets us there and gives us the push that we need, or, kind of hangs back when we don't need it. He's just a really great collaborator, and I just love working with him.
What was the recording process you used when you went into the studio? How did it all work? What did you do? Who did what when?
So this process was quite a bit different than our first process with the first album. With the first album, I feel like we were able to get everything recorded and pretty much like overdubbed within a couple of weeks. Whereas with the second album, it took us, I would say, almost 6 months to have everything completely wrapped up. I think a huge part of that was because of COVID, just navigating that. We all had to go in there independently.
Yeah.
So, but that also had its strengths in the way that because we didn't have our other members, waiting for us outside of the shed, or, we weren't like navigating that all together, it really gave us a lot more space independently to explore our parts and what we wanted to add to the album, and more layers, being able to work so intimately with Zach on that level. So yeah, this recording process was definitely very like drawn out but contemplative, just very in depth. Like I went in there and just really enjoyed having so much time to throw more guitars on and like more piano parts, and I think I probably went a little bit crazy on a few parts. I was just like, this is not enough, we need another guitar on here. But it was, yeah, so it was a long process, but yeah, just very, very thought out, I think.
Yeah.
In contrast to the first album.
Okay, how did the Pink Cake cover come about?
I think we've been kicking around the idea of having some food-themed cover for a little while, and maybe switching from drawing something to taking a photograph of something.
Yeah.
And at some point, I decided, and I am the world's worst artist, and I decided to draw a crude version of a cake that I spent a lot of time on. And we gave it to our friend who's an actual cake artist. And she turned it into that incredible cake. And then we worked with another amazing photographer who we went into a studio with her and took pictures of the cake against different backdrops. It was pretty fun to do a photo shoot of a cake. It was definitely my first time ever being involved in some kind of food related photo shoot. We weren't photographed at all actually on that day. We just showed up and played with the cake and took pictures of it and came up with different ideas. And but we were really blown away by what our friend Sugar Librarian is, the woman that makes the cakes here locally. And she's an incredible musician herself. And we were just so blown away by what she did with it. And it really just made that cover come to life.
What a fantastic name, Sugar Librarian. And obviously what I need to know now is, did you eat the cake afterwards? Is it all gone?
Oh, yeah. That was like the main thing we wanted to do. But we're like, we got to take these photos first and then we can like eat this cake. Yeah, she made a custom cake for us. It was like a chocolate cake, but the filling had like tart cherries from her own yard or her own tree in the backyard and like rose, like infused stuff. I can't even remember. I actually have a recipe somewhere. She gave it to us, but yeah, it was awesome. It was delicious.
It certainly looks it, that's for sure. Okay, you've got such a great unique sound. I'm just interested to know what your current favorite musical equipment is.
Oh boy. So the really funny thing is that we have really cool pedals, but for me personally, I tend to stay with the same pedals for years and years and years. I do know people who like to switch it up a lot, and buy new pedals all the time. But we play on a Fender Jaguar. We actually have a couple of them. We've been playing on those guitars for a few years, and I just really like the sound of them. Yeah. They have just like such a delicate feel, I guess. I don't know. I really like the action on those guitars. And then we have a few pedals that we like to use. One lately that I've been really having a lot of fun with is the SY1 from, I think it's Boss, the Boss SY1 pedal. Yeah. And there's also this really beautiful kind of reverb tremolo pedal that we've been using by Fender that mimics a Fender Twin Reverb, like a 1965 version, I think it is. And wow. You just get like this really crisp, kind of almost cathedral-like reverb sound, and I like that. And then I also have a habit of keeping like a slap back setting on one but one Boss delay pedal while having like a slight reverb sound on another Boss delay. So we have two of those on the soundboard. That just have like slightly different settings that I think kind of contribute to the overall sound of what we have. And then also, Ivy, feel free to chime in because I'm just like taking over with our board. But we also have this Weeping Demon wah pedal that is pretty, pretty representative of our signature sound as well, I think.
I know Halo's one of the band's favourite songs. How did that come about?
I think we were kind of messing around on a riff, and I didn't think much of it. And then Rachel took it on her own and brought back this amazingly crafted pop song that we really enjoy playing live. And we released it as a single as well.
In terms of live performances, do you have any favourite venues?
Our favorite places to play are like all ages spaces. And those were a little bit harder to come by under COVID restrictions, but those are really our favorite places, would be like house shows or warehouse shows, places that are just really accessible to young kids.
Okay, any other venues?
There's this venue that we've played a couple of times more recently that's a DIY warehouse space called the CRLB, or the Rock Office, here in Boise, and it's really cool. It's the type of venue that I haven't really seen around since I was maybe a teenager. When I first got into the music scene and I was like going to shows with my older brothers, and it's just kind of got that cool, more gritty, like underground vibe, which is a big part of like what inspired me to get into music in the first place, just like the whole environment of it. It's really cool. A good friend of ours runs it, and it's also a practice space for other bands. But
here's one for each of you then. What's your favourite song to perform live and why?
Lately, I would say that my favorite song to cover is Siren. That's on our latest album, and every time we play it, I just I don't know, there's just something energetically that happens inside of me, and I just love that song. I think it's my favorite one for sure right now.
My favorite right now is probably Halo, because lately when we've been playing it, there's been folks who sing along with us, which is a pretty unique experience as a musician, to get to hear people kind of sing that chorus with us.
I think my favorite is actually, it's called Faded, and we have kind of a running joke because when we were writing this, I was watching a lot of The Expanse on this show. I don't know if you've seen that at all, but I love space shows and sci-fi and stuff. And so anyway, it has a lot of, to me, it kind of sounds like a space song, like with Rachel's guitars. It sounds like we're all supposed to be floating around there in space with our little helmets on. And I don't know, it's just a really cool song to play. Like Rachel has these cool solos, and they're just like, I don't know, you can kind of feel it from the depths of your soul. You're like, oh my God, I feel so many things when I listen to this song and I hear her play it. It's very emotional. I don't know. It's a great track.
Okay, what's next for the band this year? Gigs coming up? Anything else? New releases? What are you up to?
We're kind of in the works of trying to play a few stuff out of town here in the States. So we kind of stick to the Pacific Northwest over here, just because that's sort of our zone, our area. So we'll do a few little out of town spots, and then we'll also be in September. I don't know if you know Bill Tisville is from Idaho here, and he's a pretty popular guy. So we will be hopping on for I think 3 weeks in September with them through kind of the southern states, the south of the states here. So we'll basically be playing in places we would never have ever played before. I think, there's on the schedule, there's 5 dates in Florida, and we're like, oh my gosh, really, why? But we're looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. It should be kind of a fun experience for all of us to visit these places we've never been to. So, yeah.
Is there an aspirational location in the States that you would aspire to want to play at?
I would love to play New Orleans at some point, and maybe New York.
Why is that?
I don't know. I guess it's just that place that ever, throughout one's lifetime, just seems to be like a capital. Like at some point in your life, it would be cool to go to New York. That's kind of where it's at for me. I don't know if I just think it would be such a spectacle. And I think it would just be such an iconic place to play. And then New Orleans has just been it's always been a fascinating place to me, just the culture of it.
Yeah, I feel the same. I kind of want to hop into New York sometime, just because it's this is the farthest place we would have ever been to, Maybe we should go to London. I don't know.
That would be absolutely amazing. Ivy, how about you?
I've never shared this with my bandmates, but Hawaii. Mostly because I want to go to Hawaii with them. Nobody tours to Hawaii because it's completely impractical, and maybe that's why I'm attracted to it as well. But I love the idea of being able to play in like a tropical location with these two, and just go somewhere that nobody that I know who plays music has ever played a show there. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking.
Sounds like a plan. Boise seems to be a great place to be based right now for indie bands.
We're one of the places that I think just really grew from that indie rock, the seeds, kind of the beginning of the indie rock scene here in the Pacific Northwest. And so growing up and playing music here, there's always been, that's kind of been the sound that's come from Boise, you know, because of Built to Spill and other great bands that played when I was growing up, like Caustic Resin and Dirt Fisherman. And but yeah, it's been a really exciting place to play music, especially lately. There's so many great young bands that are coming up, and it's we were talking to somebody who writes about music, and he was saying that there's kind of a cool thing happening right now in music where things are just so, genres are just really mixing with each other, and it's getting harder to define music, and that's a pretty exciting thing to see too. Just bands that sound like everything and nothing you've ever heard kind of all at once, and I just feel very lucky to play here and meet all these new young musicians.
I think another thing that's really bringing the like Boise onto the radar is I mean definitely Treefort Music Festival. It's the iconic festival for up and coming indie bands.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been really cool to be in the center of that too.
Okay, well, the radio station is based in Somerset, which you might well know to be the home of Glastonbury, and I'd certainly like to see you guys playing at Glastonbury for sure.
Cool.
Sign me up.
We'll be there.
Okay. Question for you all individually. What interest or hobbies do you have outside of the band?
Oh man. You know, I spend a lot of time outside. I just love the outdoors. So I'm doing a lot of like hiking and camping and all that kind of stuff. Somewhere near the mountains is usually my happy place. And then I'm a climber. I do a lot of climbing, and then also on the other spectrum, I love board games. So I'm doing a lot of that too. Yeah, I guess those are my hobbies. I haven't really thought about them in that kind of order, but yeah.
Last night I painted for the first time in a long time, and I was really excited to do that. I'd like to get more into that. I have 4 dogs, so I spend a lot of time with them whenever I can outside of work. And yeah, just trying to be outside with them as much as possible. And I love podcasts and I love puzzles and yeah, and serial killer documentaries.
Okay.
I do not like serial killer documentaries. I have no interest in reading or hearing about murder for fun. If I had a day where I could really do whatever I want, I would probably cook. I do love cooking. I'm not great at it by any means, but I just find it to be such a relaxing activity that ends in a really tasty outcome. So that's what I enjoy.
What's your speciality dish, Ivy?
Well, I mean, out of necessity, I've learned to cook tofu. Just as a lifelong vegetarian, you can eat some very bland tofu if you don't know what you're doing. So I've been learning to make more dishes with tofu that are something more to look forward to than just the usual fare.
Sounds scrumptious. What's the final song we're going to play tonight?
Our last song is Rear View. It was the 5th single that we released, getting ready for our album release, and we made a music video for it with our good friend James Reeves. It was a wonderful experience. We got to collaborate with lots of folks to make it happen, and we got to sit in an amazing classic car in the video. And we recorded a live scene at the Record Exchange, which is our longtime local record here in town. So we're very proud of the video, and it's up on YouTube, and this is the song that goes with it, Rear View.